started. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have you all here today. Again, welcome to our 13th virtual orientation session, and this is with our Career and Professional Development Center. My name is Jennifer Abraham, and I'm the graduate intern for New Student Transition Program here at Seton Hill, and I'll be working with you throughout virtual summer orientation to help you get prepared for your road to the Hill. I'm going to turn this over to Heidi, who's our Assistant Director for Career and Professional Development, and to George, our Assistant Director for Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. Thank you both so much for being here tonight.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So maybe we'll just do quick intros first.
Sure.
And I think George is going to bring up our resource site for us as well. So as Jennifer mentioned, my name is Heidi Schumann. So I'm one of the assistant directors in the Career Center here at Seton Hill. And I mainly oversee all of the career development for our office. And so that encompasses a lot of things, which we'll kind of touch on today together. But more importantly, I wanted to let all of you know that here at Seton Hill, you actually are assigned a career advisor. So some of you probably have already declared a major. And so if you have, I work with students, well, I'll just say maybe for sake of ease, all the students except for the College of Business or the School of Business would be assigned to me. And so then I'll let George introduce himself as well.
Yes, well, thank you, Heidi. So I'm the other assistant director in our office, and I oversee experiential learning and employer relations. So I'm tasked with the chore of identifying internships and jobs for everyone at the university. But I also provide career counseling for the College of Business. So like Heidi said, she meets with everyone else, and I meet with the students that are majoring in a business related major. So just for the sake of kind of, having a better understanding for who we're speaking with, if you want to say your major out loud, or if you just want to add it in the chat, so we could kind of get familiar with the students that we're speaking with, that would be great.
And if you're not sure at this point, so if you are undecided or undeclared, let us know that too, because that is certainly a big group of students that we work with as well, especially first year here.
So while they're putting that in the chat, Heidi, I'm going to share my screen and bring up our resource site.
Sounds good.
Okay, so can everyone see my screen? It has the Career and Professional Development Center on it. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And it looks like we have a kind of a good mix of majors for those that sent them in through chat already. So thank you for sharing. And so, like I said, so depending on what your major is, so like accounting, you would be working with George because it's more of a business related. And it looks like most of the rest would be working with me so far. But of course, George and I are, I think, for the most part, right, happy to work with everybody. So don't ever hesitate if you have a question or if you see one of us on campus, don't hesitate to ask us. We work really closely together. Our offices are right next to one another. So we're happy to assist. So just a little bit about
Sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Heidi and I both introduced ourselves, but as you can see on the screen, Renee Sterick is our director, our fearless leader of our Career Center here. So there might be times where Renee might be presenting in your class, or obviously you may see Renee in the office. So just to be familiar with who she is, Renee Sterick is our director here at the Career Center.
And some of you will be taking, or all of you will be taking Connections this fall semester. And so both Renee and I teach a section of Connections as well. So you might have one of us. And even if you don't, we work really closely with first year students. So all of us at some point will be talking to your Connections class. So it could be myself or Renee as your instructor, or George comes in and does those presentations as well. But just, George, do you want me to jump in or do you want to start?
No, you could, if you're just going to give a brief overview of what our
Yeah.
center does, I mean, that's what I was going to say.
Sure. Yeah, so I think sometimes students aren't sure what Career and Professional Development Center does or what that means. Sometimes we think career is just that end goal, right? Like, what are we going to major in? And then when we graduate, what we're going to do next. But it really is a lifelong process. And so we have something here at Seton Hill called Fit for the World. And there's a whole big explanation on our resource site, which you can definitely read through. But basically what that means is we really like to embed it in your classes, in academics. And so you often will see our faces in your classes. Your instructors will ask us to come in and talk about different things that are relevant to their career field. We will work with you in connections. We will work with you to do internships. We will work with you every step of the way. And then, through your senior year, and then of course, beyond as an alum, you even have career services. So we really try to work with students at all different levels, whether they're just figuring out what they want to major in, or whether they are, pretty established and know what they want to do and have a pretty direct career path. But we can assist you with that as well. And our office is located, for those of you that have been on campus, or maybe those of you that took advantage and did the virtual tour. So we are right in the Learning Commons. So Reeves Learning Commons is where you can find us. We're in the back right-hand corner. So back by the Writing Center, and in between the Math Enrichment Center. So that's where you can find all of our offices. We are typically here, Monday through Friday is our typical work week. But we also have a career studio. So if you are 8 o'clock at night, you have a quick question, we typically have peer career advisors that can come and assist you and are here to meet you, where you're at. So don't be afraid to jump in and get some advice that way.
Perfect. So I always tell students, it's never too early to start to engage and utilize the Career Center, but sometimes it could be too late. Even, you may be wondering, kind of like Heidi said, when you hear the word career, you're thinking, well, end goal, right? When I graduate from college, that's career. But I mean, you could start to utilize the Career Center as early as freshman year, right? I don't believe, were there any undecided students that put that in the chat?
I think we had at least one that
At least
identified
one.
as
Okay.
undecided.
So like Heidi said, you could start to utilize our center to try to identify, and do some major and career exploration to try to help you identify, a major of choice. I mean, you could start that process now. So it's never too soon to reach out to your career advisor and kind of just start the process, or say, hey, my name's so-and-so. This is kind of what I was thinking coming out of high school. How can I try to start to incorporate that, or start to achieve that here at Seton Hill, and start that process earlier on? Or even if it's, when you're here on campus and you just want to come over and say hi, right? I mean, we love to get visitors here in the Career Center. But I wanted to share and show you what our resource site looks like, because this is where, one, you're going to want to go to schedule your appointment with your career advisor, and also a lot of our different resources. So like I said before, major and career exploration, resumes, internship and job search. One thing we did want to point out with internships, if you haven't been told already, every student here at Seton Hill has to complete some form of experiential learning in order to graduate. It's a graduation requirement. So just to kind of put that out there so everyone's aware of it. But you could start thinking about that process now, even as a freshman, right? So that information is on there: interviewing, networking. If you're already thinking, my future plan, I know I'm going to want to go to grad school, grad and professional school planning. So, anything that's related to professional development in and outside of university, we definitely handle here in the Career Center.
George, do you want to click on the appointment tab? Thank you. So I think sometimes too, students are like, well, how do I make an appointment with you? How does that process work? And so obviously, no, like I mentioned, we definitely will come in during connections and we will talk through all of this. But if you're thinking right now, like I would like to actually start that process now, don't hesitate. You're more than welcome to start that process now. You can always shoot us a quick email. Our email addresses are on our website. But you can also schedule appointments through something called Handshake. So Handshake is available to all students. So all Seton Hill students get uploaded into this. It's a free account. And it's something that you have your whole time here at Seton Hill, whether you're first year student or whether you are a Seton Hill alum. So it's a really great resource, and you will learn a lot about that. But more importantly, that's how you can access our calendar. So you can easily look at when George and I are available, and then just pick a day and time that works for you. And I would say, this year, obviously, COVID has impacted lots of ways, right, that we meet with people. So lots of students have preferred to meet virtually. So George and I are honestly open to do whatever you're comfortable with. So if you are a face-to-face person and want to meet in person, we would love to see you and have you come in. But if you want to get the process started and you live out of state, or if you just don't feel like driving to campus, you can always we've met with lots of students that were still hanging out in their res hall room. You can meet virtually. We can meet through Google or Zoom. We do phone appointments, email communication. So honestly, whatever you're comfortable with, just don't hesitate to reach out. Like, no question is too silly or unimportant. I mean, we've both been doing this a long time and probably have had all kinds of off the wall, crazy questions, but honestly, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you with that process, because some of it's tough, right? Like, what are you going to do when you grow up, when you graduate, right? Like, that is a question that you hear over and over and over again. Probably one of the most repeated questions that you'll get when you come to Seton Hill too, like, what is your major? What are your career plans? What are your goals? And sometimes we just don't know that yet, or we don't know how to articulate that or formulate that. And so if that sounds a little overwhelming at this point, or you're a little bit unsure, have a conversation with us. We're both pretty easy going, I think, right? And easy to talk to.
I'd say yes.
Yeah. So honestly, just don't be afraid to open that door of communication. We are here to really help with that process.
And I wanted to also introduce our PCAs also so our PCAs, like Heidi said, they kind of manage our career center in the off hours, right? So our center is open 9 to 5 Monday through Thursday and 9 to 4:30 on Friday. But then our PCAs are peer career consultants, which are current Seton Hill students. They would then manage and run the career center in the off hours. So some, 6 to 9, and there's also hours during the day. They also do, due to COVID, they've also had virtual hours also. So we're really trying to do our due diligence and do our best to kind of meet students where they are and be able to reach students so that everyone can have access to the resources and support that they need. But these are our career advisors. They will all be back in the fall, correct? I'm correct on that?
Yes, you will. But I will put a plug out there. So we will be recruiting for at least one, if not multiple ones this year. So if that is an area and you're like, oh, this office sounds cool, I would like to work with them, then don't feel free to reach out, because we will be looking for some new ones, as all of them will be graduating this year. So we'll need some new hires.
Now, what is that position considered? Is that work study? Is that internship? How does that fit in? How does a student apply for that?
Yeah, oh, good question. Yeah, so all of those students are work study. But I will say this, we've definitely had students that have not been work study eligible as part of their financial aid package, and the university has found extra work study funds. So if that's you and you're like, oh, I'm not eligible, don't be afraid to reach out. Sometimes there is still that ability to apply. And we have not structured it as an internship before, but that is not like unheard of, right? I mean, I think we could definitely offer that opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Any questions from all of you so far? Definitely feel free to chat those in as they come up, or if you have questions, or if your parents told you to ask a question and they have questions that they want to ask, we're happy to answer all of those.
And
Maybe sorry, George. I had a student message privately saying, are you able to help when it comes to changing majors, not just declaring majors, if they're looking to change career paths as well?
Yeah, so that's definitely a popular topic that students come in with. So sometimes students already know that they specifically want to change it, right? And so if you are pretty confident in that and you feel like you don't need to talk to somebody about it, you can actually just go through the registrar's office. There's a form that they have, it's a change of major form. And so that is a pretty easy process to do. But if you also want to talk it out a little bit and make sure that you are changing into the right major and want to maybe get some clarification on that, that's a conversation that we can have too. And maybe just to elaborate a little bit about that. So again, in Connections, as a first year student, you will take some different career assessments within your Connections class, but we do a lot more than what's offered in Connections as well. So there are lots of career assessments. Some of you might have taken some career assessments in high school or through your guidance counselor or school counselor. But there are some other things and tools and things we can work through. So if you feel like you maybe had that process before and it hasn't worked for you or it just wasn't helpful, there we might have some different tools and tricks that we can try that maybe are different than those. So don't be afraid to reach out and talk through that process too. And I saw, so one of the questions just chatted in. So are you the office where a student would go to get a campus job? So most work study positions, if I'm not mistaken, are handled through financial aid. So they will alert you to whether or not you are eligible for work study funds. And then you are basically in this work study system where you can see all available positions. Sometimes too, campus offices will just post those, sometimes through our office, but they're not mandated to report them through our office. So honestly, what would you say are the biggest maybe hires, George, of on-campus students?
I know IT really does a lot of advertising at the beginning.
Yeah.
Our IT office even has started to advertise some over the summer. And it's important to know from a work study perspective, not every position advertises fully, but you can always look in the work study system. There's a list of all the open positions, so you can always look there as well as look online. But to know if you're work study eligible, that normally is through financial aid. But then to find the jobs, you can find them on the work study portal, which is all it's in the bottom of my shoe. I'd also offer that there are some opportunities on campus that aren't work study. So if you're not work study eligible, or if you already have a work study job, but you're looking for additional jobs and funding, our dining services is always looking to hire. And another opportunity is the campus bookstore. So those are two very easy things on campus. I forget if there are other non-work study positions on campus, or even like which are the highest ones, but I know that IT is always looking.
Yeah, I would say IT, library is pretty common sometimes, especially if you're visual performing arts, like even through like the box office, because sometimes it's nice to work where majority of your classes are. But yeah, I think Matt probably hit on some of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
I think real quick, well, before George navigates off this page too, so you'll see where it says scheduled and career advising appointment is easy, and it talks about things we can assist with. So those are really what we call our pillars that we work with. So those are probably the most common topics that students come in and ask questions about. So major and career exploration, obviously resumes, that will be popular and will come up time and time again, whether it's a class requirement or an academic advisor requirement or things like that. But you will need your resume over and over and over again. And so some of you probably have already started that and maybe have that document already. And if you don't worry, I'll give you a hint, that will already be a Connections assignment. So we'll work on that together. Of course, interview prep is a big one too, networking, then internship and job search. George also let you know that's a requirement here at Seton Hill, and then grad school is probably our other, maybe like hot topic or most popular talked about.
And I would add, just thinking of coming in as an incoming freshman. So your freshman year, the biggest two to start out that you'd probably be coming in and meeting with us would be the major and career exploration advice, or the resume and career document development, just because that is going to be part of your connections assignment. So thinking of, well, hey, I'm only going to, I'm just starting out, I'm not looking for an internship, or I'm not ready to talk about grad school. The main thing that you'll probably be meeting with us about would probably be to work on that first year resume. And if you had any questions, once you start to get into your courses here at Seton Hill, if you start having like, well, I don't really know about this, or, so those would be the top two things right now that you would really be coming in to talk about, and even maybe interview prep, right? If you're applying for a work study job and you have to go through the interview process and you want to come in and go through some mock interviews, that could also be something that you could utilize your first year here at Seton Hill.
I would too. I would encourage you, like, come in and introduce yourself as well, because sometimes, there's lots of these little baby steps that you typically should go through, or that we would love for you to do and accomplish, first year, second year. So for example, I know a couple of you said that you are PA students. Honestly, the more shadowing and the more patient contact hours and the more volunteering, the more things that you do these first couple of years, the better prepared you are for when you enter into that grad portion of your classes. And some students are great about doing that and they know how to get those opportunities, and sometimes they don't. So if those are conversations we can have, if you're a student that's maybe already knows you want to do something bigger like the CIA or the FBI or something like that, sometimes we know that those employers are coming on campus, or we have some of those connections. And so if we know that you're looking for those, we can help you make sure that you're getting that correct information and are kind of in that timeline, because for some of those things, they'd rather capture you as a first year student or second year student versus you waiting and applying, senior year. So don't be afraid to come in and just introduce yourself and talk about some of the career goals that you might have. Because that way too, George and I, we get to know you a little bit more, and we know that you're kind of out there, and we keep you on our radar and make sure that you're in the loop and we're getting the information to you when we know it.
And if there is anyone that's currently on the Zoom that is interested in the FBI, just a little inside scoop, they will be coming on campus this year. We've been making some connections with the FBI, so they will be on Seton Hill's campus this year, providing some information and recruiting our students. So even as a freshman, you can go and gain some information to kind of help map out that track. Okay, so I'm a freshman now, and I already know this is what I want to pursue. So this is how I could, in 3 to 4 years, I could be there. So that's hot off the presses. That's information that not even Matt and Jennifer know right now. So you can thank me later once you get here and you're able to sit down with them. But I wanted to share that. So was there anything else, Heidi, that, outside of how to schedule, I think on our resource site for now, I think would be good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay, so I guess outside of that, we could kind of use the remaining time if there are any other questions or concerns, anything you thought maybe Heidi and I were going to touch on tonight, but we didn't, or like Heidi said earlier, any questions that your family members said, hey, you should ask this when you're on there with those career people, because this is important. This would definitely be the time to ask.
Oh, good question. What is connections? Yeah, so we've thrown that out there a lot. Yeah, so connections, Matt could probably explain it better than I could. But so basically a first year seminar class, I guess, in lack of another word. So it's really an intro to the university. We talk about everything from mission and traditions at Seton Hill to the best known resources and where to find information. But it really is kind of like a university 101, basically like an intro to Seton Hill.
There you
Would
go.
you-
Great job. And well, it's also important to know that transfer students don't take connections, but any traditional first-year student, it's automatically a class that you're registered for in the fall semester. It's a 1-credit course that meets once a week for the first 12 weeks of the semester. And so it really is a great course with other first-year students. They're all taught by staff members. So again, like Heidi and myself, and chief of campus police, vice presidents, head coaches of various teams. And then each one of those classes also has an orientation leader as your class mentor in that class. So that's another great thing about connections. So another great question, how would I go about applying for a campus job if I'm not eligible for work study? So I don't know if that's something that comes past you all about other campus jobs.
Yeah, so I would say, so typically, I think Matt kind of alluded to this. A lot of times they're advertised, it's word of mouth, or they're advertised. You'll see flyers when you get here hung up all over campus. Definitely IT. If you are IT interested or minded at all, they are always looking for work study students because they need students to help with equipment and open up some of the technology spaces like after hours and things like that. So that is definitely one that is pretty flexible. They work closely to us. They're right here in Reeves as well. So that would be a place to look. And
I know
I
in
would,
athletics,
yeah,
I mean,
athletics.
now that things are starting to kind of get back to normal, I know with athletics, sometimes they need assistance, kind of help running some of the sporting events and things of that nature. So I definitely know in athletics, they're always looking as well. But, like we said earlier, unfortunately, a lot of those opportunities, they don't come through our office. So they're not being, it's not something that would come across my desk that I would be able to advertise out broadly. Sometimes it is word of mouth. Sometimes it is something that's kind of either going through the registrar's office or you'll see a flyer on campus. But I definitely think if you just kind of keep your eyes open when you're on campus and obviously your ears open and listen to people talk, you'll be able to come across a lot of different opportunities. I mean, obviously we could help also in the Career Center with saying, hey, you should maybe go talk to, so-and-so, or maybe, go talk to the head coach of the basketball team or something. I know they said they were looking for something, but that would be kind of, if you came into my office, and that would be the advice that I would give. So I see another question. Is it possible to double major at Seton Hill, or would you recommend a major and a minor? It is possible to double major. Let me see. So your history with a minor in accounting is what you are planning or kind of already identified. I think it would, I mean, and Heidi, please chime in. I mean, I think it would kind of depend on what your future goals are, right? And I think that would help dictate on if you want to do a double major or if you are going to just focus on, say, history and then minor in accounting, or focus on accounting and minor in history. It kind of depends on, what your future goals are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think it really depends because, so typically a major or a concentration is usually, anywhere from probably 3 to 5 classes, like in a specialized area, where a major is obviously much more than that. So lots of different credits. So, like if you wanted to be a full-fledged accountant, you would have to major in accounting in order to do that. But if that was just an area of interest, then a minor might be better suited. Chloe, so I would work with history majors. George would work with accounting. So either one of us you could reach out to, and we can have a conversation kind of about what you're thinking at this time. And that's true for anybody. So if sometimes it's easier almost to work your way backwards. So sometimes people are able to say like, I know this person and this is the job that they have. How do I get there? And try to figure out the path, because sometimes there are just so many jobs out there that we just don't even know. Sometimes we just know what we're, shown by, parents or another family member or family friend. And so who knows all the different job opportunities that are possibly out there. And so sometimes it's easier to work your way back, and we can help with that process and identifying that. So that was a long answer, but hopefully that answers your question.
I was also going to say, I think another option is even your academic advisor. So that's the joy of Seton Hill sometimes, is that sometimes you have an overwhelming number of help, and you're not always sure where to go. So that's the joy of, like, if you are in the Career and Professional Development Center or already meeting with George or Heidi on something, they can be great resources. But especially when it comes to majors and minors and classes, and sometimes even in working with an academic advisor when you're planning your upcoming schedule. So you might already know who your academic advisor is. They might have reached out to you already in terms of talking with you about your fall schedule, but absolutely you'll meet with them in person in the fall semester to prep for your spring 2022 class schedule. And sometimes you find out that your academic advisor will recommend a minor based upon the classes that you're already taking, or will recommend a double major. So that, I think that's another option to help you get some guidance as well. It never hurts to get second or third opinions on different ways to go about your path.
Exactly. Great point.
And I will say that I definitely think here at Seton Hill, like that is one of the things that I love about Seton Hill, is that we are small enough that we really do work really closely with lots of different departments and offices, like Matt mentioned. And so don't ever hesitate to say, like, oh, my professor said this, what do you think about this? Because sometimes, we'll get in a meeting together or a call together. We are here to help team up and help, you be as successful as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like there's another question. So the question is about English education, but want to focus in English lit. Would it be better to minor or double major? Yeah, so that is a great question. So that might be one, and we can maybe talk about that one more directly for the person that messaged that question. That might be one that is more suited. Obviously, if you want to be a full-fledged educator, like, you have to obviously do the education program and obtain teacher certification. But yeah, you probably would also have the option to do either a minor or a major, really depending on career goals. So I would say, yeah, we can talk about that one offline, talk about that one in a little bit more detail. Don't be afraid to reach out to me. Some great questions. Any other ones?
Well, I'm sure if, later on, once you sign off, if you have, if you're like, oh, I should have asked this question, or if you're talking with a friend or family member and they're like, hey, did you remember to ask this tonight? Like, oh no, I forgot. Please feel free to reach out to Heidi and myself. I'll put my email in the chat. And like I said, please feel free to send me an email if it's a question specifically related to business, or if it's a question related to internship or anything, and you think about it after the fact, please feel free to reach out.
I just did the same as well. So mine's just hschuman at setonhill.edu.
Mine's G Carter. It's pretty simple.
Easy, yeah.
So if there's no questions for us, I mean, we're done. I know we kind of threw a lot of information out at you, but please, once you arrive here on campus, or even before that, please don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, like Heidi said, I mean, we are pretty easy to get along with and talk with. And, if we don't obviously have the answer that you're looking for, we'll do our best. And amongst everyone else here on campus at Seton Hill, we'll do our best to get you the information that you need. So please feel free to reach out. We're glad to have you here at Seton Hill.
And I will just say this really quickly too. So maybe not to throw George under the bus with me, but we have talked so much before about how we both are guilty that we never ever once used our career center as an undergrad student, and like how crazy
That's
right,
accurate.
how crazy it is that we never used it. Like, who knew that there was this great office with all these awesome resources and opportunities? Like, it probably would have been a lot easier for us, right, in some stages of our career path. So don't make the same mistake that we did. We are here to assist you and help you with with all of those steps, right? There's steps that you have to take anyway. So why not get this information and resources and help from people that can make it a little bit easier for you?
Right.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank George and Heidi so much for everything that they've done for us tonight. We will turn off the recording at the very end if you do have an individual question that you would like to ask. But before we close, I want to highlight some of our upcoming events that we have. All of our events can be viewed on the Road to the Hill at setonhill.edu or on this flyer that you got in your packaging as well. But tomorrow at 6 p.m. we have our Life on the Hill session, and that's Thursday, July 8th at 6 p.m. We have our staff members from the Residence Life who are going to share information about what it's like to live on campus if you're a residential student. Make sure to tune into that. And if you'd like to see what the Residence Hall look like, on Tuesday, July 13th at 6 p.m., we have our Residence Hall virtual tour. So you can check out what Residence Hall looks like and ask any questions related to the halls on that day. On Sunday, July 11th at 8 p.m., we have our Griffith Gathering Student Social. That's a great time where you're able to meet other incoming students and get to know them on a more personal level. It's kind of like online speed dating style conversations that allow you to make those connections briefly while bouncing in and out of breakout rooms. And then finally, I want to also highlight on Wednesday, July 14th at 6 p.m., we have our Guide to Getting Involved. And this session will introduce you to various clubs and organizations that are on Seton Hill's campus. And that way you can also learn how to stay up to date on different events occurring throughout the year. Again, we want to thank Heidi and George so much for everything that they've done tonight. And I will stop the recording.